So, yeah, this is what it's about. One day, I used to work years ago before I became a Christian. I was raised Baptist, and we used to go to church on certain holidays and whatnot, but that was about the sum of it. You know, we had a very dysfunctional home. And so as I was growing up, I had a lot of, I didn't know back in that time, they didn't know what, we didn't hear the word dyslexic. I didn't even know what that was. I just thought everybody in the world is smart, but something happened to me. So my dad, back then, they used to actually punish me because I couldn't say certain words or couldn't, and I was always a kid that stayed after school because I couldn't, you know, I had D's and F's. So I was known for D's and F going through school. And so, but I always had a sense of humor, praise God. But at home I would get punished. I would always be on punishment or get beat for not, you know, doing my homework. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do my homework. I would read something and for some reason it would go somewhere in my brain and I couldn't pull it up again. And so I would just freeze when it came to tests. I just couldn't do it. And they didn't, my teachers used to wonder, but my stepmom was a home economics teacher. So everyone knew her. They wouldn't even make an issue. I even begged my stepmother, you know, put me in special ed. She said, no, I'm not going to do that. You have one sister in special ed. So she wouldn't do it. And I would cry to be in special ed. Because I thought maybe they could find out what's wrong with me. Well, anyway, that never happened. So I grew up. I went to finish. Actually, I didn't get to graduate. They put my name on the back of the diploma. They said, we have put you back so much to where you're almost 19 years old. You're turning 19, and we can't put you back anymore. So you're going to have to graduate. So they put me on the back of the diploma, but I was not allowed to march or to have that experience. Anyway, so I left from there. I ended up eventually getting married. That fell, and then I ended up getting a job for, back then it was called Tandy's Electronics. And then I went from Tandy's Electronics to Frito-Lay. I used to work for Frito-Lay, a lab technician. And back then they would teach you a lot of these jobs. You didn't necessarily have to have a degree to do it, you know. And praise God for those days. Too bad they don't continue to do that today as much. Anyway, so I went to, I started working for Frito-Lay, and one of the girls in the lab, you know, it's amazing because I used to be a packer. I would have to pack the chips in boxes, and you had to be very fast because if you get even 4 or 5 chips, bags of chips on the ground, they could write you up. So you had to, you're talking about 8 hours in a night shift, evening shift, and you're having to pack like you know, it's like everything. You had to stack your own boxes on the skid. You had to label them, stack them, pack them, everything. So it was 8 hours, you know, you had to do this consistently, and you couldn't have any bags on the floor. So it was really a very tedious, tiring work. And so I used to cry because I had gotten written up twice, and I thought, oh Lord, you know, I was just thinking, I always believed in God, you know, but we didn't necessarily go to church and whatnot and have time to worship anything. But I used to talk to God as a even as a kid, and I would talk to God still, and I said, oh Lord, I'm going to get written up. I'm going to lose my job. And so this one, and I believe that God knows us even when we don't know him, you know. And so he would send this one manager that was over the inspectors, and he would always tease with me and say, hey, Deborah, and so I was always friendly. And so I would say, oh, hey, Mark White, his name is Mark White. I said, oh, hi, and we were talking, and one day he came by my station. I'm trying to pack fast and not get behind. He said, hey, why don't you leave this job? I said, what are you talking about? I need my job. He said, no, why don't you leave this job and come sign up for the position coming up as a lab tech? I said, Mark, you know, I can't do that. And he said, yes, you can. I'll help you. And I said, you will? And so he said, yeah. So I said, okay. So I went and signed up for it. And then he said, so that would entail you're going to have to go through and you've got to train to all these labs, and you're going to have to, they're going to send inspectors, and you're going to have to pass that inspection on every station. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I can do that. And he says, tell you what I'm going to do. Every Saturday, I'm going to come in. So he said, every Saturday, I'm going to come in, said, I'm going to show you step by step how to do every station. And I said, okay, so every ceremony, he came in, showed me step by step how to run each one of these stations. And with people that have learning disabilities or whatnot, or learning issues, if they see you demo something or demonstrate it, they can pick it out. But if they have to read through and figure out, a lot of times they can't do it. So anyway, I was good at, if you show it to me, I can pick it up. And so anyway, he was very nice. And usually people, he had to come away from his family and show me for the next 6 weeks, how to run these stations. Well, my day came, and it was like, I was so nervous. And he said, just take a deep breath, and when they come in, just pretend they're not even there. Close your eyes, or just do your test, act like they're not even there. So I did. I was like, it was so hard, but I was like, okay, stay focused. I read, because you had to run the test determining whether the amount of oil was in the chips was at the accurate amount, the salt, the water, the salt, everything that you had to know the content of the corn and everything. So, after I finished each station, for some reason, it's kind of like you just have this feeling like, So each station I went through, I just had this feeling like, I think I got that, And so anyway, I finished that station, all the stations, and they were doing evaluations, and they will call you an office. So Mark called me in the office and said, well, I hate to tell you, and I was starting to feel bad, and he said, you passed. And I jumped up and I gave him a big hug, and I was like, oh, it wouldn't happen. I just started crying because I thought, how many people, and even in our lives as Christians, how many of us take the time out to not, to take the time out and see, to help somebody, to say, not just leave it to them and say, well, maybe they're just not educated. Wait, there's a lot of educated people. They just reason in different ways. And so I was so grateful to him. So I got the job, I started working, I did very well, and if I had problems and whatnot, he was always there because he was our manager. And anyway, so one day I was at work, and I got up, this girl, she came in one day, and I saw her, she was crying and everything. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Her name was Lavinia. And she said, oh, and I pulled her aside, and I started talking to her, and she said, well, my husband beat me up, and I don't have a place to stay, and I don't know what I'm going to do when we get off from work. And I said, just come to my house. So I didn't know a lot about her, but we worked together. And so anyway, she came home with me, and she was there for like 2 days or so. And then that Wednesday, she came to me and said, oh, I'm not going to come to your house today. I said, well, you have the key. Come when you get ready, And she said, well, I'm not coming today. I'm going to go by my sister's house. I said, okay, that's cool. Anyway, she left. I went home. And as I got home and got out of my car, I saw this. I heard someone say, Deborah. And it's night. It's like the sun has gone down and everything. And there's a brick wall. And I heard someone calling my name from behind this brick wall. And I'm like, and I said, who is it? And then finally this guy comes out from behind the wall. And I look at him and I recognize who he was. It was a guy that wanted to try to date me, and I'm saying, I'm not into that, we were friends, but anyway, so we had developed a friendship. And so he came over, and he was walking upstairs with me, and we got upstairs, he came on in, and we were just talking, and all of a sudden, someone knocks on my door, and I'm like, okay, and I would look out the peephole, and I'm like, well, why is she knocking, Lavinia? I'm like, why is she knocking? Why don't she just come on in, when she has the key? And so she knocked again, and so I opened the door, and when I opened the door, she came in. And when she came in, she looked at me, and then she looked over at him, and I recognized, wait a minute, something's not right here. And I said, you two know each other? And she said, well, yeah, I met him at the club, and something, blah, blah, blah. I never, by God's grace, I didn't do drugs. I didn't smoke because my dad was an alcoholic, and I always swore I would not be an alcoholic. I would not be like him. And so I did not want to, but as far as hobby, I used to love to dance, Anyway, so I said, you know what? I'm going out. I'm going to leave this because something's not right here. I just didn't know what was going on. So I left her there. She had my key, and I left. And I went by, and for some reason, Nothing was going on at that club, so I said, I'm going to go home. And back then, they used to make these lemon drop cookies, and these big cookies, you know. And I said, I'm going to go by the store, get me some lemon drop cookies and some milk. I'm going to go home, and I'm going to watch a movie. So I got home, and I got ready to relax and watch this movie. And all of a sudden, someone knocks on the door, and I got all ready to watch this movie. And I'm like, okay, so I came to the door, and I said, who is it? And I look at the peephole, and again, I'm like, what is her problem? She's got the key. So I go to open the door, and as soon as I open the door, her husband, I didn't see the husband, I saw only her in the room. And I did remember when I came back, I thought, well, what happened here? I don't know, because I left the two of them. So when I opened when I unlocked the door, he pushed the door open, and when he pushed the door so hard, I fell backward. And when I fell backward, he came up on me and he put a police special at my head, and he said, "You're gonna die tonight." And I thought, what are you talking about? And he said, he had it, and he was getting ready to conquer die. I said, what are you talking about? I don't understand. And he says, "You're gonna die tonight." And I said, "But why?" And my brother he had been in the service. He had gone to the war there, and he was back home, and he was settling into life again. So he was staying with me, and my son was there, and I babysat that night for my sister, her little boy, about the same age as my son, probably about 7 at that time. And they were asleep, and my brother was in the room, and all I could think of is, I'm going to die. And so when he turned around to say something to his wife, she was there too, and I jumped up and I ran down the hallway. He could have shot me in the back, but I ran down the hallway because I was panicky. I was like, I got to get to my brother. And so I opened the door quickly, and my brother was on his knees. He was praying. And I said, "Ronnie," and then he came behind me, and he put the gun at my brother, and he said, "Come out." And I was so grateful that my son didn't wake up, my sister's boy didn't wake up, but my brother came out of the room, and they closed the door, and he made us come out of the hallway, and we sat on the sofa. So he had my brother to sit here, me to sit here, his wife to sit here. He says, "First, I'm killing you," he says to me. And then he says, "And I'm going to kill you too. You here, but I'm killing you too," he said. And then he says, "And I'm going to take my time killing you," he said to his wife. And I'm like, oh my, this is really bad, you know? And so I was like, oh. And so we were sitting there, and he went back and forth, and I didn't know a lot about drugs, but I was thinking, this guy must be on something, you know? And so he was sweating, and he was just back and forth. And so finally, he says to his wife, "You know how many times I've told you, and I've had it, and I feel I can't take it anymore. I'm just going to kill all of us, and then I'm going to shoot myself." And I'm like, oh. And so anyway, his wife was saying something to him that he didn't like. So he grabs his wife off the sofa, threw her in the floor, and then he put the gun at her head. And then he hit her with the butt of the gun. When he did that, she was bleeding. And I knew then, okay, we are really going to die tonight. And so my brother says to me, "Deborah, we need to pray." And I said, Pray for what? We're going to die." And he said, "Deborah, just pray." And I thought, huh. And so I said, okay. And I started reasoning with God. I said, "Okay, God," in my head, I said, "if you just spare us from this, I promise I'm going to become a Christian. I'll give my life to you as a Christian." So, so he went back and forth. And then he came at me again, and he said, my brother says, he put the gun at my head, and he says, "See, I told you I'm killing you first because you know why." And I said, "No, I don't know why." And he says, "Because you set this all up." Well, little to my surprise, when I left, and I left the two of them there, the husband was somewhere watching all of this, and somehow he ended up in my apartment with the two of them, and I don't know what went on, but I was like, oh my, and I said, "Lavinia," I said to his wife, "please tell your husband I had nothing to do with this." And she said, "Yes, you did. You set it up." And I'm like, oh. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And so she said, "You did. You set it up. You were setting up a date with us." And I'm like, oh my. I knew I was going to die. So I thought, okay. And so my brother said, "Deborah, just pray." So I kept saying, "Okay, God, please spare us, because I don't want my brother to die, and please spare us." I said, "I'll give my life to you. Please spare our life." And then my brother says, "Young man, she used to call her husband Chocolate for a nickname. And she said, my brother said, young man, why don't you give me the gun? And he said, don't say it. He said, I want to tell you about someone that loves you so dearly. His name is Jesus Christ. And he said, don't say that name again. So my brother kept saying, Jesus loves you. And every time he would say Jesus, this guy comes unglued. And he said, don't say it again. I tell you, don't say, I'm going to kill you. Don't say it again. And I was telling my brother, don't say the name again. And my brother kept saying, Jesus loves you. And Jesus he wants to save you, brother. And finally, the guy just cut. And finally, my brother said, can I just step outside? Would you just step outside with me? And just let me talk to you. Just let me talk with you and pray for you. So finally, the guy let my brother step outside with him. And when he stepped outside, I locked them both outside. And I'm like, oh. And I told her, get your stuff, you're going. And she said, I can't go. He's going to kill me. I didn't have the heart to put her out in spite of all of that. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And anyway, my brother talks to him. The next thing I know, they're no longer on the porch. He's walked this man down to his car. And I evidently got in his car. My brother came back. And I said, where is he? He says, he's gone. I said, he's probably coming back. And I told his wife, I said, you got to go now. And she was like, but he's going to kill me, blah, blah, blah. So finally I said, I gave him. And anyway, so after that, I said, Lord, I promised to give my life to you. And a month later, I said, okay, where should I go to church? I got to just go find a church. So I went to this church and that church, and I kept saying, my sisters, I went to one church and they said, I went down to the altar, and my sister said, I thought I gave my life to Christ, and then when I got in the back, the lady said to me, oh, whatever you do from this day forward, you are saved, no matter what you do. And I thought, wait a minute. Because one thing I did know, in spite of the fact that I did not really grow up in a church, going to church all, I knew that God was holy. I knew that much. He's holy. And I said, you mean to tell me that if I go to the club tonight, and if I was a person that drinks or smoked, you mean God will still forgive me and I'm still a Christian? Oh, whatever you do from this day forward, she says to me, you are a Christian. And I said, I'm out of here. So I turned around and I left. I left the church, left out of that church. And so I said, God, I don't know where truth is. I don't know truth, but wherever it is, I want truth. I don't just want man's opinion. I need to know the truth. And I said, show me and lead me to the truth. So that weekend, I used to model back then as a petite model. I was very small, so I was always, I was with an agency like you get at Walmart or different places that want you to model the clothing. And so this was a modeling company, and I was with an agent, so they called me up, and they did everything. Your makeup, you look like Hollywood, stepping out of Hollywood when they get down there with you. And you won't believe some of the pictures is the same person, but anyway. So I was with them, and I got this call that we're going to be going to LA, and we're going to be doing a big show at the Bonaventure downtown LA. And they said, in every star, if they're a star, they're going to be there. So we had to go to rehearsals, and they said, we're going to be picking the people that are going to be part of this opening scene. Well, because I grew up dancing to walk off some of the ways I felt about myself, I could dance, so I could pick up dances easily. So anyway, I made the head lady for the opening show of that night. But meanwhile, that Saturday, we were looking around on TV so we can practice the routine. And we turned, and there was a Soul Train on, and we said, well, and then we turned the channel again so we could find something else. And there was a church, and this guy was talking about the Sabbath. And I thought, so they turned the channel. I said, no! And they looked at me like someone. I said, turn it back! And they turned the channel back. And I said, did you guys hear that? This guy said something about a Sabbath. And I said, what is a Sabbath? What does that mean? And so anyway, he kept going on. He kept giving scripture. And I said to my cousin that lived in Inglewood, I said, oh, do you have a Bible around this place? And he said, yeah, somewhere. So we found the Bible. We dusted off. And we started turning to the scripture. And I was like, wow. So they were taking turns reading these scriptures. And I'm like, wow. did you know the Bible said that? And I was just so excited about what I was hearing. And they were like, you need to be practicing. And I said, no, let's keep watching this. So after it finished, I said, hey, so what's the name of this church? Let's look in the yellow pages and find this name of this church. So we found a church that says 7 Days something. So we called it the 7-Day Baptist Church. And we said, no, not that one. Let's call the other. So we called this other church. It was the 7th Day. And so we talked to this pastor. He said, yes, this is the Berean 7th-Day Church. And I said, Berean. Oh, I said, we want to come to your church and talk to you because we saw this program on television, and it was saying something about the Sabbath, that it was not for the Jews, it was for everyone that was supposed to observe this day called Sabbath. And I said, I really have to know about this. And I said, and so he says, well, come on down, and we have an engagement this evening, but we can talk to you for a while. So we jumped in our car, we got down to this church, and we were talking to this pastor, and I was just amazed because I had so many questions. Because I believed when I died, I believed that you die, Baptists, we believe in that we die and we go to heaven or hell. And when we were talking to him, and he said, no, you die, and Jesus gave you an example, and you will die, and you will go in your grave, and on that resurrection morning, he's going to call you forth. And I said, really? And I was like, I can't believe it. So anyway, I told this guy, I said, can we come to your church? And he said, sure you can. So anyway, we got that next weekend we were going to go to his church. And at that time, my fiance met this young man. His name was Raul. He was in an elevator. And this just taught me the importance of when God moves on your heart, tell somebody about Jesus. He was in the elevator, and they were talking, and him and his friend, and they said, oh, my girlfriend and I, we were listening to this program about something to do with a Sabbath day. And he said, I never knew that. He said, did you guys know? He said, no, man, I didn't know that either. That's in the Bible. So he was showing this guy in the Bible, his friend. And this other young man was in there, and he says, the door opened for him to come off, and he said, excuse me, my name is Raul. He says, I would like to know if you would like to come to my church. I keep the 7th day, the 7th-day Sabbath. And he says, you do? And he said, man, where do you go to church? And so he told him where he attended. He said, I'll do better than that. I'll come pick you guys up. And he says, okay. So he gave him the address and everything. And he came back and he said, guess what? This guy's in a row. He's going to pick us up for church on Saturday. And I said, Saturday? Really? And so we got excited. We went to this church, and from that, we continued to go. And I was so excited that I said, people probably think, man, this lady, because everything they were teaching, I was just so overexcited about it, because I thought, wow, I finally found Jesus. I finally found that he loves me so much, and that there's a special day that he had given to everyone. And so it was amazing. And so from that, I dedicated my life to Christ, because I believe, okay, God has led me now to the truth. Now I know. And so I say to anyone, when God moves on your heart, or when you go through encounters, and and God spares your life through that, God says, now go and tell somebody what I've done for you. So that's what we're to do. We're to go and tell Jesus our testimonies, tell others what Jesus has done for us through our testimonies, that someone may come to seek God out with their whole heart. So that's a short testimony.
There you go. Amen.